Once again, time for the rundown. Jason here with J.R. Jackson and Victor Chi. Victor Chi with always an impressive shirt game. Where does your collection
I gotta do
of
something.
shirts, where do they end? Is
I
there
gotta
an
do
endless
something.
amount? That's all?
What's that?
Endless amount of shirts? Does it just keep going?
No, it's judiciously prioritizing when you roll them out.
Got it. Very nice. Well,
Take notes, Ruben.
I am. I have like 3 shirts to my name. But we wash them. It's important to do that. So we move forward because we have a fun little game to play here with you here, and that has to do with Back to the Future, which this has come up before on the post-game TYT Sports. In general, one being the Back to the Future predicting the World Series being the Cubs in 2015, which still actually could happen, which is unbelievable if it does.
You're right, it is.
Except for the Dodgers and the Mets cutting in the way. But more importantly, if you were to go back in time and change one thing in sports history, if only we had actual athletes to do that, but we do. We asked, or I should say the post-game, was fortunate enough to ask Paul Pierce, Derek Jeter, and a few other awesome athletes regarding what they would change if they can go back in time.
It's the 30-year anniversary of Back to the Future. If you can go back in time and change one thing in sports history, what would you change?
2010, our Game 7 loss to the Lakers.
I think probably be some of those Suns near misses in the playoffs. Maybe if they at least didn't suspend Amari and Boris that one year in the playoffs, that would have been worth reversing.
No agents.
We had a 9th inning of Game 7 in 2001. I'd go back and change that.
Paul Westphal with the answer of the year with that one. It's not even an answer. It's not a change. It's just no agents. Get rid of all agents. That's awesome. It seemed like a really fun event to be at. And, of course, it's not surprising hearing that all of it had championship-worthy answers to it, or at least moving forward in the succession of the playoffs. So, Victor, we're going to start with you. You have one event in sports history that you can change. What are you changing?
I thought it might be Muhammad Ali just taking a beating at the hands of Larry Holmes late in his career. It was just a sad spectacle to see. He's the greatest, the great Muhammad Ali, just covering up and just getting pounded. And Holmes' former sparring partner actually felt bad for him that he had to inflict this beating on him. And not that it diminishes any of his accomplishments, but just really painful and brutal to see Muhammad Ali in that state have to endure that type of punishment.
It's a fantastic answer, because I am a giant boxing fan. I hope all the commenters are too. J.R. Jackson.
I'll stay selfish like a lot of these these legends in sports did. Of course, they all refer to their own potential victories and championships,
The
right?
track star back at USC? No?
No, but I'm going to go back to my fanfare, track star USC. There was one race where, I still have a scar on one knee. That's what I'd change, but who cares about that? Who cares? But no, as everyone knows, I'm a Rams fan, and I think the Patriots are the biggest cheaters ever. I'm sorry, not that I just think that, I know it. So, in that light, because of last season, when there was a chance for them to go ahead and lose another Super Bowl, I was hoping for what everyone hoped for, a run at the 1-yard line rather than the quick slant. That's all. That's all we're hoping for.
And
from
even
Seattle.
If it wasn't a touchdown?
It would have been.
It had to
That's
be a
why.
touchdown. It would have been a
because
touchdown.
it
You
would
just
have.
know this for
Come
a
on.
fact.
Beast mode would have been in the end zone. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows it. Pete knows it. Everyone knows it.
I'm very certain that I am the only non-New England sports fan who defends and supports the New England Patriots. So, my friends back home, this is just so I don't get killed by my friends back home, because they would find me here out in LA, and they would do very cruel, mean things if I did not support their golden child and Tom Brady. But that's another interesting point, because that Super Bowl, if changed, would have been at the hands of the same stadium that they got upset by the Giants, I believe, in 2007 when they lost the undefeated season. And it would have just been heartbreaking on another last-second pass. Wow. That would have, it would have, of course, changed history, but instead Russell Wilson throws an interception. Vic, you inspired me, because I was going to say my personal beliefs, but I know nobody cares about this. In 2006 NLCS, Andy Chavez made what would have been considered a top 10 greatest catch of all time in baseball history when he robbed Yadier Molina of a home run that gave the Mets just a chance to come back in that game. Instead, Carlos Beltran, that piece of shit that he is, and I feel this honestly, sat there with a bat on his shoulder. All $100 million that we paid him meant nothing. So instead of Wainwright throwing a perfect pitch, maybe it creeps a little bit over the plate, and maybe Beltran sends it over the stands, and then, of course, we go on to win the World Series, like the Cardinals ended up doing, all sadness now aside, I would go back and actually change the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, and I would have it so that Manny Pacquiao knocked out Floyd Mayweather in like the 6th or 7th round, because that truly would have saved boxing. If the undefeated boxer that Mayweather was, a public figure that people did not like for the most part, got knocked out at the hands of Manny Pacquiao in what was considered the fight of the century.
It would have created a rematch, at least one.
At least one, and it would have been Ali-esque just because of the headlines that would have circulated, the positive image for boxing it would have been to finally see a legend or a giant fall like that. Instead, we're suffering from the fight of the century being the most upsetting and not demoralizing, but it just didn't do enough to save the sport.
One of the few times that a match in more modern, recent history actually captured audiences that don't care about boxing. It used to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And it hasn't done that in a long time.
It passed what, Bill Simmons always calls this the mom test. My mom doesn't know much about sports, but if you asked her, like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? And she goes, oh, I'm going to watch the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. Like, oh. Okay, so everybody in the world
Good to
knows
see Mom
about
will
this.
pay for it, then you go over to Mom's house, so you don't have to foot the bill
Mom,
yourself.
can I get the pay-per-view login, please, really quickly? But any other, JR, Vic, any other ones that you would want to change if you could?
There was one I was considering. It was the 1972 Olympics in basketball where the U.S. got screwed out of the gold medal against the Soviet Union because they kept replaying those final 3 seconds as many times as they needed to make sure the Soviets won. But it ended up being kind of a rallying cry for USA basketball in subsequent years. Like, they always show, here's what happened to us in '72, right before the gold medal games for all the future years. So, in a way, it was very painful at the moment. The U.S. has still never accepted the silver medal for that 72 fiasco. So, in one way, it's obviously a dark moment, and these guys never got the gold medal that they thought they deserved. But in the long run, they ended up using it as a rallying cry for USA basketball. So, maybe you don't want to reverse it for the long-term effect of it being, like I said, this rallying cry, but certainly a painful moment for those guys who thought they'd won gold.
Very patriotic decision from Victor Chi. I know one for sure before we wrap this up, and that will be in the future because I'm going to predict it. It's when the Mets beat the Dodgers in the 2015 NLCS that J.R. Jackson will be sitting here saying, I wish I chose the Dodgers beating the Mets, because that is just what is inevitably going to happen.
I'd be happy to see the Dodgers get there because the way they looked yesterday, management is a bad situation in the middle of a game.
Is the hashtag Fire Mattingly finally trending after 2.5 years? We don't know. But in general, you can subscribe to us. You can click on Victor. If we go back to the wide shot so we can see Victor, there he is. We can click on Victor to subscribe to the post game. Click on J.R. Jackson to subscribe to TYT Sports. Leave all your thoughts. What would you change if you can go back in time in sports history? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we're everywhere. Click on them all.